we look at our theme in the lenses of the story of Elkanah and Hannah. Elkanah is a Levite of Mount Ephraim and was a man of wealth and influence, and one who loved and feared the Lord. These are the kind of men we like. Men who have wealth, they have means, they have influence, just like Job, but still can fear the Lord. His wife Hannah was a woman of fervent piety. Many times we have preached Hannah like, you see, pray like Hannah prayed in the temple and the Lord will bless you. We want to think that that is the first time that Hannah actually had connection with God. No. Hannah was a woman of fervent piety. Gentle and unassuming, her character was marked with deep earnestness and a lofty face. And that is the kind of life we want to live. Because we cannot turn God into a spanner boy, that we only look for him when we need something. He can't. When we're in tough situations, we are serious Christians. The minute he blesses us, we cease Christianity. This couple was denied the blessing of a child they didn't have, and the desire to perpetuate his name led Elkanah, as it had led many others in his time, to contract a second marriage. Because when time seems to be moving, there is no child that is coming, you're thinking, who will perpetuate my name? Who will take my place after I am gone? For many of us that are Africans, you keep wondering, will I receive a share of my father's property? Because there are communities, if you do not have a son, you're not entitled to land as a man. Why would you be given and you have no sons? So I'm trying to understand Elkanah with the very reasons that move most of us to contract second, third marriages on grounds of a child that has not come. You see, Elkanah were dealing with the fact that they had nil children. Some of us are still crying because we have girls only. Man will never be satisfied. There's someone who just wants one. But there's one who has four, but the problem is they are girls. And they will keep pushing you. I will leave you if you do not give me a son. And I'm asking, who determines the sex of a child? Is it not the man? I'm kufanya biology. Ni wale watu walifanya sciences mbili, physics na chemistry. It's the man. Because we don't carry any Y chromosomes. It's the men that carry the Y and X chromosome. Depending on the bullet you shoot, that is a result of the child. If you keep on X chromosome, those are girls. So you cannot blame a wife for the children that you have. No, you can't. You can't. Men that have gone to school, learned. It was a step that was prompted by a lack of faith, and it did not bring happiness. Never. And allow me say this categorically. There can never be happiness in the things that God has never sanctioned and he will never sanction. No happiness. And at times we think when we do those things, we will have some level of happiness. In fact, it becomes worse. Those that decided to marry second wives, third wives, you're in a polygamous setup. Tell me if you're happy today. Those of us that have been born in a polygamous setup, tell me if we are happy in those homes. It's sibling rivalry. There are those that are interested in witchcraft, chasing each other like nothing. Why is daddy not coming to our home as frequent as he goes to the other home? There is no happiness in the things that God didn't sanction. You can never find happiness in any form of sexual immorality, be it homosexuality. You can't. Never. If it were not the funding that makes many of our children move into the LGBTI, if it were not for that funding, I doubt if they will make the same decision. So they would rather bear with infections, rectal prolapse, name it, for some money. If that funding was never there, none of our children would go into it. No one. Polygamy has been acceptable since Bible times. It was normalized, but God has never sanctioned. Polygamy is sanitized adultery. Adultery imepakwa sanitizer. There's no happiness. Tell me which home is happy. Anyone coming from a polygamous setup, tell me if you're happy. You're not. Never. They had the sons and daughters added to the household. So many. Penina. Her name was Penina. There are certain names in the Bible you read, don't give them to your children. Be very careful. Penina. Hata ukisikia vitu alifanya, bado unaita mtoto Penina. So Penina brought sons and daughters that were added to the household, but the joy and the beauty of God's sacred institution had been marred, and the peace of the family was. Because Penina always looked at Hannah as one who had been punished by God for something that she had done. And she felt she was the one who was highly favored simply because she had children. And I'm imagining if Penina was a Luo, the kind of abuses she would actually throw to Hannah. Wameshikana na mama ya Elkana. Werikode, macho to. I'm imagining the kind of abuses Penina would throw at Hannah. Because she provoked her every single day. And I'm imagining every family decision they made. I'm thinking, Penina would say, you need to consider that we are many on this other side. The other side, there are no children. Penina, the new wife to Elkanah. Let me make this very clear. In terms of the story of the Bible, Penina was the second wife. But biblically, I call her a strange woman. The Bible calls such women strange women. In terms of the story, she's called a wife. Because there's that cultural setup and understanding that when a man contracts a second marriage, those people become their wives. They are not wives. When I say biblically, I mean something can be in the Bible, but it is not of the Bible. The Bible. So biblically, she is a strange woman. But because the story is in the Bible, accepted by the culture in their time, she's called a wife. So don't be fast to stand and say, the Bible says Solomon had 700 wives, 300 concubines. He had only one wife. The rest were strange women. I have a good friend of mine. Let me digress. She's also a preacher, a lay preacher. I love when she gives her testimony. She says there's this man that approached her and promised to marry her. And she accepted. And she knew this man had a wife. But she says life got difficult. Life got difficult. And when she learned the truth about polygamy, she quit that marriage with children. And she says, Liz, I didn't care how my children were going to grow up. I didn't care how my children were going to feed, how they were going to go to school. What I cared about was the fact that now I knew the truth. And for years, she spent her life at the roadside, selling some food stuff to take care of her children. And then she says, after many, many years, a big car came and stopped where she was selling. And she's also wondering, who's this? And the person that came out was the man that had married her. And the man was asking, what is this you're doing? She says, but I have to fend for my children. And the man began to cry. And the man said, my wife died many years. My children sat me down and told me, Daddy, you cannot continue living like this because we are also not around. Why can't you marry? And he asked them, which wife? And they said, go bring the woman that left us. And that's how she was married legally. So when she meets you, she'll tell you, don't get worried about your age when it comes to marriage. I wedded at 52. She's preaching to singles. Don't worry, I got married at 52. Today they're in that marriage, and I believe God accepts it. I believe so. I believe it. She's a preacher, a good one. You love her sermons. So Penina, the new wife, I call the strange woman, was jealous and narrow-minded. And this is actually almost a trait. It's a trait almost for every woman that comes as a second wife, if you have noticed. Because they also know they're walking into a territory that is not theirs. So they come prepared for war. They know, not that they do, they are prepared for war. And at times their war is spiritual. Because she wants control of everything. Because they think by the time a man asks them to marry them or marry him, they think there's something wrong with the first one. And for sure, that something wrong has been explained to them by your word, by your husband. So they walk in thinking they're coming to cover up or help with that small, how would I call it, problem that the husband has. Times the husband will tell them, my wife is not pretty, amejiwachilia. So she comes, she thinks she's pretty. She does not understand the journey you have been through to look the way you look like. She has no idea. She has no idea you guys started staying when you had nothing. Nothing. She has no idea. You accepted to live with this man when he had nothing. In fact, your curtains, like mine, were newspapers on the window. Those marriages would start, unaweka gazeti kwa dirisha na maisha inafanya nini? Na song. They have no idea where you have come from. And they have no idea how your husband has frustrated you to look the way you look. And today I don't blame women ambao wamejiachilia. Life can push you to the wall until even yourself you're not aware. Umefanya nini? Umejiachilia. Life can push you to the wall. It can get tough. So she comes to fill up the apparent weakness that Hannah has. She has no children. Very narrow-minded woman. What these women don't know is that the journey you've gone through is the same journey they will do. They'll go through. They have no idea. She bore herself with pride and insolence. To Hannah, hope seemed crushed, and life was a weary burden. Yet she met that trial with uncomplaining meekness. She never complained. You abuse her, she just looks at you. I remember when Sarah wanted to help God, told the husband, tunafika 100, hatuwezi za tutumie ule mfanyikazi. And they used the house girl. The house girl got a baby. Sarah didn't know that would be the result of polygamy. And then Hagar became too proud. I don't know, it's because God had a plan, serious, with Abraham. That is why God permitted that Hagar goes. And God told Abraham, listen to your wife. It was becoming too much for Sarah. Say, listen, just listen to your wife. Let Hagar go. Today we call that spirit the spirit of Hagar. The one that can be courageous enough, even with the truth in the Bible, to walk into a marriage and believe they are better wives than the other one. Yanga mauondi ni ted na ngama negedhako. Ngano be uondi maradier. Aki anakudanganya. Huyo mtu anakuja na kukwambia aje, enda tu uolewe na yeye, bibi yake hakuna kitu wanajua. Tena unaenda unaolewa. Huyu na hata siafikirie wewe mwenye unamdanganya, hujatoka kwa bwana yako. And some of us, we have permitted such weddings. Adventist identity does not mean it is right. The fact that it's rubber stamped by Adventism does not mean it is right. Never. No, mtu wasidanganye wewe. Eti utafanya harusi kanisa. Hii harusi itakuletea la. Yani hao baba wote wako single. Wewe uoni ya ukweli. What normally happens? Right now, people are saying there are no men and Willie has not married. Yeah. They're saying there are no Willie to borrow the kind. What's I say? Willie, Karango. Some people saying there are no men. And I've always advised people, if you don't see men in your church, Adventist world is so big. Go to Migosi there. There are people. Central, East, South, Polyview, wako. Enda tu useme leo nimekuja kuwatembelea. Nilisikia tu kukuja kuwatembelea. Wewe ndio unajua kitu imekupeleka huko. Kama hapa kwenu hakuna mtu, yenye inabidi uchukue bwana ya mtu hapa kanisani. Ichi ni? What does that man have to offer? When what he has to offer, you know, I would say samagi moro podmate. You know, wakati maisha ya mtu bado ni mzuri. You know, that is when you have things to offer. But this person is old, worn out, even physically. What does that guy have to offer you? Hakuna kitu, hakuna, you'll not enjoy anything. Hakuna. Siku moja atakuotea kwa kitanda. Oh, chiega machonja. No way nango. Hizo ndoto zitakuwa frequent. Ipo siku kama ni pamka. Unaongea nini hiyo? So, nimeongea kitu. Kwani nimesema nini? Kuna maisha ingine ngumu, sijui mnatoa wapi roho. They become too jealous that this man can't even talk to his children. Yafuo karangenye yao. That was the life of Hannah. There are things when you ask God, don't ask with a complaining, murmuring attitude. Don't. Hannah prayed for all her life. She had a meekness that was marked with an uncomplaining attitude. She never blamed anyone for the fact that she didn't have a child. She didn't blame God. She didn't ask God, now see, you united us in church, you have denied me a child, now see my husband is going out. She never made those kinds of prayers. All things, the Bible says, work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. There is a reason why that delay, seeming delay. I don't call it a delay, call it a seeming delay. There's a reason why. Listen to the story in verse 3, chapter 1 of Samuel, verse 3. This man went up from his city yearly to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Also, the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. And whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. And she gave that much just to confirm to her that he was still affectionate about her, regardless of the fact that she didn't have a child. No one under the sun can love more than one woman. Never! Brian, am I right? Good boy. No one can love two women. Never. The Bible says you cannot serve two masters. You will love one and hate the other. No one. Don't even lie to yourself. Don't deceive yourself. You will definitely love one and hate the other. And so do not be deceived that you will come in as a second wife, a third wife, even the 20th wife, and be loved more than the first one. Don't deceive yourself. The spiritual covenant in marriage is recognized in heaven for first marriage. And I've kept on telling Christians, there is a covenant recognized in heaven, and it's always for the wife of your use. So when you understand that covenant recognized by heaven, anyone that comes into your marriage, second, third, fourth, should not shake you. Praise the Lord. Those are relations not recognized in heaven. And I've always said they look like vehicles that have no enough fuel. Gasless. Petrol marmia chia. Ok chop kate gate kate. Iyo gari hakuna mali naenda. But some of us are burn it until you throw away your marriage. You're throwing away your marriage for a journey that will never even get anywhere. Hakuna mali hiyo watu inaenda. Hakuna. Hata ukiletewa divorce papers, uambiwe usign na bunduki kwa kichwa. Wewe sign. Hakuna mali wanaenda. Atarudi. Atakwambia si tunaweza reverse ile divorce. Mwambie tu hakuna shida, kuja. Tuko. tuja kufa. A man may seem to detest his first wife, but be advised that that hatred is implanted by the devil who has facilitated the subsequent marriages. There's a spirit in him that does not want to see you. And you wonder, what wrong did I do? Mtu amesahau mahali tumetoka. Hapana, kuna kashetani ameingiziwa. Verse 6 says, and her to make her miserable because the Lord had closed the womb. Every single day she provoked her. So it was year by year when she went up to the house of the Lord that she provoked her. Every time she went to the house of the Lord yearly, she still provoked her. Where are you going to? All these years you've been going to Shiloh. This your God has never blessed you. Nene koro wuoko dhi lemo. Dhi lemo to ignita Nyasache no pok owinje. Ndakuomba nini? Therefore she wept and did not eat. Never. Kuna matusi ingine ukitusi mtu unafikiria mara mbili. Never look down on people on matters of family and even marriage. Don't rebuke anyone when it comes to things like marriage, family, childlessness. Don't, because God is still alive and kicking. Don't. Some of us have talked so badly about a relationship in church. Before you know it, and at times I ask, if someone comes and tells you, my husband this, my husband that, my husband this, my husband that, my wife this, my wife that, and then you want to chip in, careful on the statements you want to make, careful on the advices you want to give, because after 4 months, she's pregnant. My husband this, and she's pregnant after 4 months. And she continues to talk, baby 2, baby 3, baby 4. Then you ask her, mimba natoanga wapi kama hamsikizani na bwana yako? Things change, and they change for the better. So careful. Be very careful. When you choose to trust God, they will mock you. They will question the power of God you serve. They will think that your condition is punishment from God. Hannah uttered no reproach. There's no single day she stood to exchange with Peninnah. No. The way I see you pick a phone, and then you call. We ni nani? Unafanya nini na bwana yangu? That is too cheap. Atakuuliza bwana yako ni mgani? Anaweza bwana yangu ni Sospita. Atakuuliza Sospita ndio mboga gani? And you'll have no answer to that question. These women come prepared for war. You will not ask them stupid questions. Don't lower yourself to that level to begin to fight with someone you think is a mistress or a baby mama to your husband. Don't even dare. You'll be bending too low. Don't ask. Don't. One time, a brother-in-law of mine had an affair out. And then the wife, they had just started living, and the wife knew the woman. So she went to see my sister-in-law. That is now the sister. Sasa huyo ni sister ya bwana yake. Both of us are. She cried, and I didn't know what to do. So what I did, I told her, twende town ukatoe stress. Took her to a supermarket for window shopping, not buying anything. Window shopping. Twende tu tuone zile viti za leather zinakuanga pesa ngapi. So they went. And when they were moving round, guess who they saw? Her husband with that girlfriend. She's pushing a real trolley, not a basket, not a small trolley, the trolley. And she's packed it with things. Unajua unalala njaa, wewe unalala njaa. And she wanted to confront. My sister-in-law told her, slowly, until they finished buying stuff. So when they went to the counter to pay, they were standing from afar. And the minute they had finished paying, my sister-in-law was the first one to grab all that shopping. And said, hey, nani, kuja tuende nyumbani. Kuja tuende nyumbani. You know, my brother-in-law could not talk. And then they tell me after they'd crossed with the ferry, they didn't get home. They looked for a place and sat to check what is in these things. Very stupid things, perfume, lipstick, what we didn't need we threw. What we needed we took home. Hani, kuna vitu wa baba wanafanyanga, sijui mnafikiri, hata uogopi bibi yako anaweza kukupata hapa. Shopping kama hizo unafanya hapa kuika penye bibi yako atakupata. Hata watu wa kanisa wakikupata wanauliza, huyu sio Hilda. Huyu mwingine pindi yako nayo ni mgani? Hata uogopi Hilda ataambiwa hiyo story. Watu unapeleka ile supermarket iko Majengo pale. Shop yeye unarudisha. It's interesting the things we do. They say hera upot. Love is concentrated. Too concentrated until you become stupid. Beloved, where were we? We said Hannah didn't waste time fighting with the co-wife. The burden which she could share with no earthly friend, she cast it upon God. You know, the burdens, you think who you'll sit with to talk to, and you don't see any person. Number one, it is so shameful. Two, you are such a figure in church that you don't even want people to know that your husband has some mistresses out there. Because you've always said, mimi na bwana yangu tunapendana. Then bwana changes into something else. Then you realize bwana has 3 kids out there, older than yours. Nowadays we wonder, mbona siku hizi yasemi mimi na bwana yangu tunapendana? The things you keep quiet, you can't tell it to anyone. Anna couldn't describe a situation to anybody. Only God understood what she was going through. Only God. There are burdens so shameful that you cannot afford a sharing with any human being because they will judge you harshly. You can't even pray loudly about it when you're in church. Hannah prayed to God, and as she prayed, she spoke. Only her lips moved, verse 13 says so, but her voice was not heard. She had been praying all along, but could not bear the provocation from her co-wife. She couldn't. She couldn't bear that provocation anymore. And for the first time, she made a prayer out of grief and complaint. You move to God with so much pain in your heart. All along she's been praying soberly. But this particular time, she was moving to Shiloh with her husband, and then Peninnah started abusing her. She went and made a prayer out of grief and complaint. Eli, the man of God, thought she was drunk. But after an explanation, instead of rebuking her, he blessed her. And then verse 18 says, verse 18, the Bible says, and she said, let your maid servant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way. Listen. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer what? Sad. There comes a point when you find joy and peace that surpasseth all understanding, and you must stop shedding tears. You must stop weeping. Ellen White says we don't need to cry every time we want to make a request to God. Yeah, it's painful, but you don't need, any time you think about it, you go before the Lord. Anything. But for the first time, after Eli had blessed her, she went home, she ate, and she never wept again. You must come to that point. You have to. You have to. The Lord blessed her with a son, Samuel, meaning asked of the Lord. The Lord did not answer her prayer because she had prayed differently that day. That is what we've always taught our members, that go to the church, pray, weep like Hannah, so that the Lord can. No! God did not answer that prayer because she had prayed differently. If anything, she complained and was in deep grief. That prayer was answered because God's appointed time had come. Time had come. And you know, when God's time comes, nothing stops it. Nothing. Nothing. At times you feel like you at your workplace, there's a promotion, you feel it should be yours, then people begin wrangle, and you're wondering, mbona mtu ananione? Kama ni yako, wapende wasi. Nothing can ever stop God, block him from blessing you. Nothing. You don't need to fight. When his time comes, it has come. Whether Penina cries, whether Penina jumps, whether Penina does what, the time has done what? Has come. She didn't quit her marriage because a strange woman had interfered with their union. She did not waste her time fighting the strange woman. She patiently waited for time because God knows no haste, neither does he know delay. Those vocabularies are not in God's dictionary. He does not know haste. He does not know delay. He doesn't. Just like Jeremiah and Isaiah, the Lord knew Samuel before he was conceived, sanctified him before his birth as a prophet, a priest, and a judge. It was only Samuel that occupied those three offices at a go. He's a prophet, he's a priest, and he's a judge. The Lord knew it long before his conception, long before Elkanah and Hannah had gotten married. Because it is purpose that brings us into existence. We exist in the mind of God before we are put in the womb. God had set aside the womb that was to carry him. And so he couldn't come earlier or later. He was in the plan of God. And if God wanted a prophet, a judge, and a priest, he knew someone called Samuel would come. This is the womb that will carry him. And so he couldn't come earlier or later than the time God had appointed. Samuel's birth, his growth and development, his training had to coincide with the end of Eli's rule. Because God had planned after Eli, it should be somewhere. So there was no way he was to come earlier than God's appointed time. He was to be born, raised, and trained that the minute he matures, he takes over. From who? Eli. So why are you in a hurry for something that God has already appointed specific times? And in the fullness of time, he had to be born. God has destined us for great blessings, but our impatience has caused us to lose those blessings. We took a different path, not ordained of God, because we were tempted to go it alone. And we missed these blessings with an inch. Soul that is willing to exercise faith, for the soul that is willing to exercise patience, for the soul that is willing to exercise perseverance. Good things definitely can come out of Christianity. Some of us quit when they have come too far to quit. When you realize you have hit even the 5th year in marriage, you have come too far to quit. Some quit even after 30 years of marriage. So you wonder, what were they holding on to all these other years? When the Lord is just about to bless you, then you quit. Because you feel it's been too long. And someone will ask you, for how long will you sit with this man? We don't see any change. And just at that time that you contemplate quitting, that was actually the time God was to bless you. But you quit. But for how long is the question many people have asked me, Pastor, how long will I go on with this? They want to know how long. Let me tell you something, friends. We have been waiting for the coming for too long. We are not the first generation, are we? No. Generations before us have been waiting for his coming. They have died before seeing him. Kina Peter preached about it. Paul talked about it. John even gave us of heaven, but they all died before he came. Today we continue in the same race, and we are saying he's coming. We are still waiting. Let me tell you something. If you find yourself asking for how long should I wait for this, then you need to question your patience regarding the coming of Christ. If you can wait for Christ's coming this patiently, you don't even know the day, you don't even know the hour, then there is nothing in this world you cannot wait for. Whether it's a job, you will wait for it. Because if Christ's coming is what you're still waiting for, what is marriage? What is joblessness? What is good health? You need to tell the devil, I'm still waiting for the coming of Christ. Yeah, so I can still wait for my husband to get well, my children to get well. I'm willing to wait. But then I have good news for you. Yesterday I went home and my daughter told me, "Hey, una preach na nguvu, nimekusikia kutoka hapa." Nina preach na nguvu. That's why you see me trying to control. So I told her, wako na speakers mzuri. And then I asked her, did you get to school? She said yes. Did you do the rat? They call it a rat. She told me, no, Mwalimu didn't give us. But we received our marks on the English exam we did. And she was happy. And then I told her, what did you score? She tells me I scored 63. I was the 4th one in all the streams. You know, 63 to you looks small. But it is us who know what we are going through with my daughter. Then I asked her, what did you get the last time you were in Segero? Because I told you why we changed schools, is it? What did you get the last time? She told him, Mama, you're the one with the report card. Sonia, I really wanted to see the difference, and thank God for it, because I've never seen anything beyond a 50. So I looked for it, I got it. I told her, come. Then we looked at it. The first exam, she got 37. The second exam, she got 48. I told her, Mama, now you have 63. Ya ukweli, uko na 63. And I told her, we are progressing. We are moving forward. The Lord is answering our what? Because the devil had made this girl, when exam time comes, she does not see the paper. When exam time comes, tears flow in her eyes. When exam time comes, she's sick. When exam time comes, she's the teacher to all students on things they don't understand. But exam time now, she does not even recall one thing. Every time I had to travel to Segero, go pick her, she's sick. You take to hospital, no disease. Clean, she's okay. So when she got 63, I said, it is good to be patient with the Lord. I'm waiting for the other results. I'm not ready to scold her because we have never asked her anything about her performance. We understand the spiritual warfare we are fighting. We understand. For how long? I encourage you, wait for as long as Christ is coming. Because by the time he comes, even if your prayer is not answered, the life we are getting into, much bigger, much greater than the one you have been making prayer requests for. So I have nothing to lose. Eternity is far bigger and greater than the requests I make to God. So I will wait. I will wait. It takes 40, 60, 100 years. I will wait because I'm also waiting for the second coming of Christ. That informs my patience. My patience is not informed by my colleagues' progress. It is not informed by people around me and what they think. It is informed by the very fact that I'm still waiting for the coming of the Son of God. If it happens in between here, well and good. If it does not happen, life out of this world, much better than the life now. I have nothing to lose. It's my prayer. If you want to test the goodness of the Lord, you will learn to be patient with Him. Why am I closing and I've not made the final statement? Verse 21 of chapter 2, the Bible says, and the Lord visited Hannah. That's a second time. After giving birth to Samuel, and the Lord visited Hannah, so that she conceived and bore 3 sons and 2 daughters. 5 children plus Samuel, 6. Are you seeing the Lord that we serve? And I'm still imagining what Penina was going through. I'm imagining. I'm very sure her mouth was because if Elkanah loved her even without children, how much more now that she has brought what? Children. I'm just imagining the feeling that Penina had. It became small. Alikuwa anatembea kama mtu ameng'eng. Ajui hata afanye nini. Because looks like now Elkanah was spending much time where? Yeah, at Hannah's. Because those are children he's used to. Now he must spend time with the brand new one. 6 children, 2 girls, 4 boys. That is inclusive of Samuel. May the Lord reward your patience as He grants your petition which you have asked of Him. God bless all of us.